Hello everyone, this is Ange. Welcome to another episode of the Visual Novel Monthly Recap. This time, talking about visual novel related news that happened in February of 2024. That said, the first couple of announcements actually happened in January, but I couldn't fit them in the January video for different reasons, so I'll just have a few of them as a reminder here. Kurupro announced that they'll be working with Kadokawa to make a NUKITASHI anime adaptation. So far, there's just a 30-second teaser. As a big fan of the original visual novel, I have no idea how they're going to work around the sex-heavy nature of the plot, but I'm definitely very interested. Type Moon came out of nowhere to announce an official English release of Fate Stay Night visual novel, remastered, sometime in 2024 on Steam and Switch. This is a pretty wild announcement, as many people have been begging for a Fate Stay Night official translation for years on places like the Manga Gamer request forums. After the success of things like The Witch on the Holy Night Steam release, an upcoming translation of Tsukihime Remake on Steam, Fate Grand Order, the Fate anime adaptations, and probably a little bit of Melty Blood Type Lumina, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that Type Moon finally bit the bullet. An anime adaptation got announced for I Walk Among Zombies, a visual novel developed by Seacox and translated by Sekai Project. This was an eroge story clearly inspired by the older zombie apocalypse phase back in the day, and I personally think an anime format would fit this type of story more, to be honest. Access Games announced 5 new visual novel translations on their Twitch channel. The first one was Tales of Toyotoki, Arrival of the Witch, a visual novel developed by Fragaria, and it appears to be a reverse isekai visual novel starring a witch from another world. The other announcements were all otome visual novels. The first was Virche Evermore's Fandisk, Epic Licorice, only on Switch. The next otome announced was Despera Drops, a crime romance developed by Red Entertainment, only on Switch. The next otome was Tengoku Struggle, an otomate visual novel with a premise around capturing jailbreakers who were supposed to be punished in hell, also only on Switch. The final otome they announced was Radiant Tales Fandisk, Fanfare, which, you guessed it, is only on Nintendo Switch. P-Cube released Konosuba, Love for These Clothes of Desire. This is a visual novel based on the very popular anime and light novel Konosuba. The main plot, if you can even call it that for this visual novel, is an original side story where the main 4 find this artifact which makes their personalities have a complete 180 reversal. In order to resolve this issue, this artifact makes them create different types of clothes, which I believe you can change around during gameplay. Shirobune released Dungeon Travelers, Two Heart 2 and Another World on Steam. This is a very interesting one to talk about because Two Heart 2 was a romance visual novel that's had a fan translation for quite a while. This Dungeon Travelers game is not a visual novel at all and is an isekai RPG based on the Two Heart 2 main characters. If you were able to read Two Heart 2 and want to play those characters in an isekai RPG setting, then this is your game. Access Games released Spirit Hunter Death Mark 2. This is a sequel to the original Spirit Hunter Death Mark, which I believe was an interactive detective murder mystery suspense horror visual novel game. Shirobune released the second NUKITASHI developed by Kurupro. This is basically both a sequel and fandisk to NUKITASHI 1, featuring after stories of 3 of the original routes, as well as a parallel world isekai sequel route, which gives routes to the big 3 and is the basis for a couple other after stories. I gave a full video review for both the first and second NUKITASHI on this channel, so you can check that out if you're interested. Necon Neon released The Colorful World, or what was originally known in Japan as Irotoridori no Sekai or Iroseka. This is a visual novel developed by Favorite, who developed the Hoshizora no Memoria visual novels. Despite the similar art style to Hoshimemo, Iroseka actually has a different writer, and apparently this story is going to be more of a nakige and have more world building and less typical high school slice of life stuff compared to Hoshimemo. Another very important announcement related to Iroseka is if you're one of the many victims who supported the Soul Press Kickstarter translation for Irosekai, like me, before 2020, aka right before Soul Press essentially closed as a company, Necon Neon was kind enough to provide a free Steam key if you provide email, proof, and screenshots that you supported the Kickstarter. While they've technically already announced it before, Shirobune confirmed they're still working with Lemnisca to translate Kara no Shoujo 2 HD called The Shell Part 2 Purgatorio on Steam, coming sometime in Q2 2024. Shirobune also announced that they are doing a spin-off series to Taimamen Asagi called Taimamen Yukikaze. Outside the fact that it stars a heroine called Yukikaze, it seems to be the same as the mainline series, a dark ninja story with dark H scenes. Kagura Games announced Angel Tear, Goddess Betrayed. It appears to be a magical girl-themed dark nukige, and I'll let the synopsis speak for itself. Yuri becomes Angel Tear, who fights against the evil demons, but even the human men are threatening her if she doesn't give them exactly what they want. Sekai Project released Neno Hakona, which is actually a simultaneous worldwide release with Japanese, English, and Chinese languages. If you're wondering why there hasn't been a new Nekopara or Inupara yet, it's because the developer for Neno Hakona is Shate Noir, a sister company to NecoWorks, and esteemed Nekopara designer Sayori is actually both producer and art director for Neno Hakona. However, this visual novel is not in the same genre as Nekopara, as there's a lot of warnings of this visual novel having extreme gore. Outside of that, I don't know much about it besides it being a dark, serious story about rich family feuds. If you're a fan of using GOG as your non-DRM visual novel store, Shirobune has decided to add some titles there. Shirobune released Ego's Spark, developed by Satsuki. All I know is that it's a short romance story based on dating a robot girl. On VNDB, I recently found out that a new fan translation project was started for 12 Ribbon, the Criminal of Integral. If you're familiar with the Infinity series or Kotaro Uchikoshi, 12 Ribbon is a sci-fi multi-route mystery thriller with characters having ESP powers. This premise seems similar to other stories by the same writer, including Era 17, Remember 11, and the Zero Escape series. Necon Neon is starting a very interesting new feature, a potential dakimakura or body pillow cover purchasing for VN titles they've translated. In a survey, you get the option to ask for characters from Urarava, Sankakurenai, Koikari Love for Hire, or Making Lovers. And you get to ask if you want lewd or safe for work art on the covers. Shirobune announced that they're going to be translating Mashido Ido Symphony. This is a pretty popular moege visual novel developed by Palette, who has made visual novels like Saku Saku, Love Blossoms with the Cherry Blossoms, and the 9-9 series. This is the Mashido Ido Symphony Love is Pure White HD remake released in Japan in mid-2023, as the original Mashido Ido Symphony was released all the way back in the late 2000s. From quick research, similar to the premise of Princess Evangel, there's an interesting merger of a co-ed school merging with an all-girls school, and the protagonist has to earn the respect from students from the all-girls school merger. An also important addition is the fact that the Sana edition of Mashido Ido Symphony also got announced. Sana is a character that didn't get a route until a separate release in the original Japanese version. Sana's route will release as a separate purchase on the same day as Mashido Ido Symphony in Q2 of 2024. Shirobune had previously only been on Manga Gamer, JAST, and Kagura Games as non-DRM VN specialty stores. They now have titles finally on Denpasoft. For the first time in their over 5 years of existing, Necon Neon has finally started a license and demographics survey, something generally only Manga Gamer and previously Soul Press has done before. In addition to asking things like gender and visual novel store preferences, you can give a few suggestions of visual novels you hope they can translate. Keep in mind, this survey started on February 21, and they stated that the form will only be open for a few weeks, so make sure to check the description for the link to this survey if you want to give your input to Necon Neon. Sukera Somero has done a simul release for Lip Trip, My Boss is My Heat Suppressant. This is a Yuri or Girls Love visual novel where apparently people have secondary genders, alpha, beta, or omega. Sukero Somero previously made another Yuri Girls Love visual novel in Oshirabu, Waifus Over Husbandos. If you like that, perhaps you may like Lip Trip as well. If you're a fan of femdom nurses and jank 2D fighting games, JAST USA released Nope Nope Nurses Melee, a fighting game based on the Nope Nope Nurses series of visual novels that was translated by Shirobune. You can get this game on both Steam and JAST. Otome fans will be happy to know a new title by Idea Factory and Otomate was released called Sympathy Kiss. This title seems to be based on a female protagonist working at a company to work on a news app that's ending service soon. Sympathy Kiss was only released on the Nintendo Switch. Dramatic Create has released Of the Red, the Light, and the Ayakashi Suzuri. This is a title that appears to be a multi-route mystery visual novel based on Ayakashi spirits like Kitsune. This appears to be a version that has content from its PSP port, including a new prologue and ending that wasn't in the original release. Alright, that is it for February 2024 visual novel news. As always, if you have any feedback, positive or negative, feel free to leave a comment below or in one of my social medias. First, I want to give a huge shout out to the local weeb who's a continuing editor for my channel. Next, I want to give a huge shout out to my monthly paying YouTube members. First, we have Ice, who's been in the VN Super Weirdo tier for 2 months. Then we have Armorian, who's been in the VN Weirdo tier for 2 months. Next, we have Alberio, who's been in the VN Weirdo tier for 4 months. And then we have Sabin Fire, who's been in the VN Super Weirdo tier for 6 months. And then we have David Mendiola in the VN Super Weirdo tier for 8 months. And then we have Lee Douglas, who's been in the VN Weirdo tier for 9 months. Then we have Marie Antoinette, who's been in the VN Super Weirdo tier for 18 months. And then we have Dexon Boxer Terrier Dog RIP, who's been in the VN Super Weirdo tier for 11 months. On Coffee, we have Bartek, who gave me a one-time payment. And finally, T-Lover, who continues to give me monthly payments. Much appreciated to all of you.